What's up, T-Tan fam? Eric here. A special episode for Monday, October 27th. I know it's different from what times I usually post, but um, I had a doctor's appointment this afternoon, so I only worked a half day. But I wanted to come on here simply because I've been talking about love and redefining love and what works and what doesn't and how you're supposed to be. Well, in my case, um, I'm bringing this episode in because I am no longer with my girlfriend of almost 2 years. So I wanted to come on here and talk about it and, um, kind of just, get it out there um, for my own personal preference, but also to see, to kind of let you guys know on, what's going through my head. Today after my doctor's appointment, I dropped off the last bag of belongings at my now ex-girlfriend's house. And oddly enough, she happened to be sitting in the driveway. But I'll get into that in a little bit. But overall, it was kind of, you know, it was it was something that I'd gotten together. They were work items, and um, and from there, I dropped him off. There was the last things to kind of put a close to this chapter, which is unfortunate. It came with, now comes, this certain silence that comes with closure. Not the kind that where you're waiting for a text back or a call, um, but the kind where you finally realize it's done. And today, I dropped off the last bag of her belongings. No words, no eye contact. She was sitting in her driveway, oddly enough. Just a quiet acknowledgement to myself that this story is over. And it officially bookmarks the end of this chapter and on to the next one. You know, say it's bittersweet is probably pretty accurate, um, but it doesn't begin to describe it. Because I did see a great future with my girlfriend and I. Honestly, this was the first relationship that I had let it all out. I didn't hold anything back. There was not one lie said. There was, truth and honesty and intent with everything that I did within this relationship. Um, One where I gave an effort that wasn't matched in previous relationships. I put everything I had. I loved hard. Um, I felt we were growing. I tried not to talk too much about the future. However, um, it was you get to a certain point. Of course, you have to have those discussions. I mean, listen, I'm the type of person that I don't date to date. I'm not in it for a quickie of any sort. I'm in it because I see value in that person. I see something that attracts me to them, not just the physical aspect. What do they have inside? And truthfully, that's what I thought I had. But after kind of reflecting on our time and the issues that we came about, I really kind of realized something about myself. Um, is that I was the one trying to hold it all together. I was the one putting putting I don't want to say I was the one that was putting in the effort. It was always about what do I have to change. This is what I need to do to be this or to be that. And honestly, like, we did have a pause in July, June July time, and the biggest issue that I found is well, I mean, she had extreme trust issues and she was extremely jealous. Um, but she said she was going to be working through that, and I tried to provide a safe environment for her. And according to her, um, she needed emotional safety, and I tried to get to that level. Honestly, I did. I did a lot of inner work, but I couldn't get there. And I'm not going to badmouth her. That's not my style. That's not what I do, honestly. Because I'm a man of integrity, a man of character. I know where I fell short. I know where she fell short. But to sit there and kind of outline all of that, it's tough. But I did realize something, that it was one-sided, and I was doing all the work, and it became exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but you know, in doing that, she was in constant observation mode. And when somebody's in observation mode, you can't fully give yourself to that other person. And that's all that I wanted. I mean, I was reaching, I was doing everything I could, and she was analyzing. And unfortunately, what it came down to is that her words didn't match her actions. And that's how I was in the beginning, truthfully. And I fully admit that, um, to her. But that wasn't enough. Um, but also, you can't build connection, true connection, through observation when any one person is observing and seeing, hey, is this going to be right for me or not? Love isn't a lab study; it's participation, and you have to be fully you have to fully dive in. It's going to get messy. You have to be vulnerable, and you have to sit in it. And if you can't face your fears or talk about your past clearly, you will never. Let me rephrase that. You will have a hard time being in a relationship, honestly, because you have to give that person truth. You have to, be honest with that person, and they have to understand that. And if they're not reciprocating in the way that you see fit, then you don't deserve to be in that relationship. You have to move on, because it'll just be draining. You know, um, One thing I have learned through this is I used to think love was meant to, fix it, like you were supposed to fix it, you're supposed to prove, showing I was safe enough to be trusted. But now I know, love's not earned through endurance; it's reciprocated through presence. Um, and kind of, being a natural fixer, that was kind of one thing. Is I think logically. Men think logically, women think emotionally, right? And no matter what you do, what you say, you could have the best intent in the world, absolutely the best intent in the world. But if for some women, and in this case my ex-girlfriend, I didn't lead with emotion. She had a problem with that. She couldn't accept, even though I was saying it in my own terms, right? Being a man and speaking logically, I didn't say the right words to make her feel safe and that she could trust me. And in relationships, there has to be give and take, there has to be understanding, there has to be communication. And at times, um, when our communication broke down, it broke down, and it kind of just tore through our relationship, because not neither party got clarity. And unfortunately, because of her past, that affected our present. And I told her multiple occasions that, I am not here to fix you. I can't fix you. I won't fix you. That was, I said that, I tried in the beginning. It didn't work. And then finally I told her that, I am not fixing you. I can't fix you. You have to fix yourself. And she wasn't doing the work to fix herself, because she didn't feel that there was a problem, because it was ultimately her way, or the highway. So, um, having that conversation, um, with her, and hearing her say that I don't want this, and then getting up and leaving, um, you know, to say I was disappointed, and and upset. Yeah, I was, but I had already kind of prepared myself because I could tell as soon as she showed up that, we're supposed to have a talk about moving forward in a healthy way. Well, that changed drastic directions. I think she said that just to kind of throw me off the scent, but as soon as she arrived, I knew that, um, that our relationship was over. I could tell in her eyes, I could tell in her body language. Um, and I sat there and I listened. And I spoke about things that I wanted to, hear from her. And I didn't get an answer. And so she had already predetermined and made up her mind about what she was doing, and that was that. So, one thing I will say, anybody that puts a timestamp um, about when we can meet, it's another good indicator. So kind of keep that in mind. But I mean, honestly, this isn't about bitterness; it's about balance. And as of today, I chose myself not out of ego, but out of peace. And you know, it's something where the amount of love that I had for her, the amount of fight that I put into our relationship, the amount of inner work that I put into myself during this time is something that I'm going to take and use moving forward. So there is a silver lining to, this. Obviously, with her and I, it didn't work. She didn't want it anymore. Okay. You know what? I wish her well. You know, um, she may find what she's looking for. She may not. But again, that's not my problem. I know what I want. Going forward, and I know what my basic needs are. Um, but sometimes closure doesn't need a conversation, just a quiet goodbye, and a man who finally knows his worth. And you have to know your worth, through and through. Um, it was tough because of the relationship that I had built with her kids, and obviously my daughter, the relationship that my daughter had with her. And, this was the first relationship, and why I chose after my divorce to wait so long to start actively dating, or find somebody to introduce to my daughter, because I didn't want to put her through something like this. Well, happened anyways. What I thought were I had checked all the boxes. Clearly, I didn't see all the boxes, but now I see all the boxes, and going forward, I will be, um, more careful and more aware. But no matter the pace, um, fast pace, slow pace. Well, that's another thing that I learned is, it doesn't matter. It really, it doesn't matter. Because I've been in relationships where it's been, hot and heavy, and then all of a sudden one thing happens, boom, relationship's done. And granted, that was in my younger years, but now, my age, right now, it's, you know, we do, I focused on, her pace, which was very slow. I respected that. And, it worked for us. I have to say, it worked. And I don't regret one bit of it. I enjoyed the ride while I was on it. And, but it's time to get off. And it's time to, now focus on myself. And that's what I plan on doing. And if something comes along, great. If something doesn't, great. you know, but it's focusing on me, and it's focusing on my daughter, and giving her the best of the best that I possibly can, during this. So, these next 3 months are, because we're coming to the end of 2025, and what I had lined up is now gone, so my slate is clean, um, and it's refreshing, in the same token, because of um, because now I have a blank slate. I don't have to worry about what her and her kids are doing. I don't. all I have to do is focus on myself, and I focus on my daughter and what she's doing. So, with that, it's, as much as I would have, loved to be in a relationship, sometimes it's best to, walk your own path and see what life brings you. So, you know, that's coming towards the end of this, quick episode of this quick update, life update. Um, and I think because of when we had our break, I mentally prepared for this day, because I will admit, and sorry I'm backtracking a little bit, but I will admit that when we first took a break, it came out of nowhere. It really did, and I was just really taken back, and that crushed me, that hurt me, but I then took that and I turned it into something absolutely um, mind blowing, in the sense of learning about myself, learning about her even more deeply. And I can say with truth and honesty that, um, I did gain a lot of perspective and a lot of knowledge, during that, but also my preparation um, you know, um, for this, has helped me through it. With that last bag dropped off, now that chapter is closed officially. Ring has been returned, um, and all of that. So it was, it's time, you know. And now that I can, refocus on myself and focus on my daughter, that's what I'm gonna plan on doing. So, I want you guys to enjoy the rest of this Monday. And got any questions, comments, leave them below. I don't have a catchy line for today. Or how about, hey, how do you handle a breakup? What do you do? What is your go-to? Let me know. Leave it in the comments. But like and subscribe. Oh, as always, I appreciate, every single one of you for, coming in, watching my videos, and I hope that, it helps you. With great tragedy comes triumph in some aspects, and I can say with honesty that, um, that I it, even though I had my whole heart into this, I would rather find out now than later, and that's what happens. So, we move on and we move up, and that's what it's all about. So, you guys enjoy your Monday. Again, Truth About Me podcast every Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Check it out. Until then, talk to you later.